This is a good time to actually kick things off. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. Thank you for joining. So there's a couple of things that we're going to walk through today. So obviously, this is going to be a full walkthrough of the entire product suite of bits that we offer. So we're going to cover the entire compliance lifecycle of a customer, everything from onboarding to post-onboarding to ongoing due diligence, to how you can centralize customer data for smoother case management, risk scoring, and also monitoring. And this webinar, we really prepared from the standpoint of if you have any of these challenges, then this webinar is really for you. So if you have an inefficient onboarding and KYC processes that really causes churn and potentially lost revenue. Secondly, if you have multiple disconnected systems complicating your data management, but also your risk scoring. And then thirdly, high cost from manual processes and internal tools. How do you get a lot of third-party vendors, some perhaps in-house built tools to actually work with each other and communicate with each other that impacts then a lot of manual processes. And then finally, the fourth point really is if you're struggling with lengthy integrations and change requests with third-party vendors. So you might have bought into a solution, integrated it, but then when you need to make changes, you need to be dependent on the third-party provider. So then this webinar is really for you. And if we look at sort of what we're going to cover today, I'm going to get to the agenda, but first a bit about us. So I'm Fredrik, lead sales and commercials here at BITS, also one of the co-founders. In the room with me here today, also I have Marcus Björklund, who's our head of product and compliance, and then also Max Teleman, who leads up our engineering team. So all of us here are available today to answer any questions you might have throughout the webinar. And then what to expect then. So I gave you a bit of an introduction and in terms of what you can expect as a takeaway from here. Some of you have also requested via the link to get a trial account at no cost. So we will follow up with that as a call to action post this webinar. But specifically, the live demonstration we're going to walk through here is onboarding, building a workflow, getting that live, onboarding a customer, looking at applications, entities, workspaces, risk scoring, and then also finally monitoring. And then we'll leave approximately 15 to 20 minutes of time at the end for Q&A. And throughout the demonstration, please pose as many questions as you want. We're a couple of folks on the call here, so I think it works both to kind of shout out via voice if you have any questions. But if you want to just send questions in the chat, Marcus is going to moderate it. So if there's any question that is relevant exactly to the point that we're demoing, we'll pick it up immediately. But please engage and come with tons of questions. We love to answer your questions here. Good. So I think that is actually a good segue to actually jump over to the platform. Okay, so now we are in the platform here. So what we're going to start with is actually building a workflow here. So we're going to create a workflow for the Swedish market, let's say for a fintech company or a payments institution that wants to onboard a business as a customer. We provide data coverage over all of Europe, even outside of Europe. So you can leverage bits to really expand across multiple markets. But in this scenario, we're just going to show how this customer can build a flow in Sweden, go live with it, and then actually take a customer through that. So what you do here is we start then in workflow. So we create a new workflow, let's say fintech company X, onboarding. We name the workflow. We get asked the question if we're onboarding individuals or organizations. In this scenario, we want organizations. We select the market, which is Sweden. And now we get into what we call the workflow builder here. And you can add as many markets as you want. So for example, we could add United Kingdom. We could perhaps add Germany. So you can really build out these flows for all the markets that you're present in or perhaps want to enter, right, very quickly. But you can also think about these workflows as a way to, build flows for different types of risk levels in your business, for different types of product journeys, etc., and really be creative about it, right? So let's say we want to get started with building this Swedish flow. then we just hit a plus here, and we get access then to all the capabilities, data registers, service providers, etc. for the Swedish market. So we look here, and let's say we want to start then by verifying the applicant, the person who is signing up the business, right? Then we click an EID and proof of address here, and we can see in the Swedish market, we're leveraging here bank ID. And perhaps then we want to do a PEP check on this individual. We also want to do a sanction check on that person. And then following this, we want the applicant to actually add an organization number. So the business that they want to then sign up here. And we can here then automatically detect which business this is in all markets. Following this, we perhaps want to collect some org information. So all the UBOs, the legal entity, the signing combinations, all of that data. We can see then here in Sweden, that would be via Bolagsverket. If it would be in another market, then it would be a different type of register, right? And it doesn't matter how many flows you build and how many business registers or service providers that you use, you only need one connection to BITS and one commercial relationship with us. And following this, perhaps we want some financial information. We perhaps want to ask some custom due diligence questions. And here we've built a service that basically is prepared for the non-regulated entity all the way up to a licensed bank. So here you can really tailor the custom due diligence questions that you want to pose the user going through this flow. So you can then go in on a more granular level, edit these, etc., and really get to the set of questions you want to ask the user going through this flow. But for demo purpose here, it's not fun to just look at me answering, hundreds of questions here. So I'm going to make this fairly simple, and we're going to click off majority. Let's keep contact details. We go back, and let's say we want also to ask the user or the applicant to upload a document. And here you can add this custom screen. You can add as many as you like. So let's say we want the user to upload a bank statement. Please upload below. And you can see then a preview down here below. So this is how it's going to look then for the applicant going through the flow. We choose the document type. Let's add this in Swedish as well. Like that. We add the screen. And let's say we're starting to feel that we feel pretty confident about this flow now. Perhaps we want at the end just like a summary, so the applicant actually get a preview of like, is this the business then that you want to onboard? And you could then continue by asking the user to verify bank account information details. Perhaps you want to sign a document, an agreement, etc. Then you can do that as well. So here we built our first flow then. And now what we're going to do is actually go live with this flow. So this took us now like a minute to just build the workflow. We could continue here creating similar flows or different types of flows for UK and Germany. But we're going to theme this flow now with a product that we call theming. And basically what this is a service that you can skin out one-to-one with your company branding, the fonts and colors of the front end, so the whole user journey that we take care of. So here an example, what we built. So here you can set everything from the canvas, the border width, corner radius, the logo type, change buttons. Perhaps you want to upload your own specific fonts, then you can do that here. So you can really tailor this to your liking. And perhaps you want one brand in one market versus a different brand in another. So then you can really skim this out here. But let's say we're happy with this and we want to go live with this flow. We go back here to workflows. We select the market, Sweden. We select the theme that we wanted to use. We save that. And now the only integration work that is needed is that you need to point this flow, this specific flow that we built. So you point this either to a button on your web page, a sign up button, and when the applicant clicks on that button, it then initiates the whole user journey that we're going to take a look at here in a second. It could also be an email link. It could be something that you point to in the back office for the agents or compliance folks you can really be creative here where you want to initiate the flow. So if we go over now to the demo portal here, we're going to take a look at now how this user journey looks like. So we select the flow that we just built, the market, Sweden. We start the demo, and now we're going to get to what the applicant then sees from initiating this flow. And the first thing that's going to appear here is a consent screen, and all of our customers, or majority of our customers, has this consent screen today purely from GDPR reasons, because they want to showcase to the applicant that we're collecting this information to a third party, which is BITS, right? But you have the option to remove this if you want to, and you can select then the language on the local market. So you can then, if it's in different markets, right, you can then have the local language. But let's initiate the flow. And the first thing is going to be bank ID, right, on the applicant. Then we're going to get to the know your business part, and now it's doing the PEP and the sanction screening on the applicant in the background. And we fill in a org number here. We can automatically detect that. We hit next. It's fetching all the data. And now we're getting to, if you remember, the questionnaire. So if we go back to the platform here, now we're on this step here. So it's done all of these checks here in the background, because that doesn't need to be visual to the applicant going through the flow. But if we go back to the demo portal, we just want the contact details. We enter that. I hit next. And now we're getting to the document upload phase. So I'm just going to upload some generic document here. We've done that. We hit next. And now we're going to get to the final part, which is the application summary here. So the applicant then reviews this, and that looks to be in order. Okay, I hit confirm. And there we go. Now we've successfully onboarded this company, right? And then as a customer of BITS, you can either decide if you want to consume all of this data going through the workflow that we just built on API. Perhaps you want to consume that into your back office, your CRM system, right, where the sales folks work, or perhaps you have a compliance portal internally, right, for agents, etc. Then you can consume this on API. But if we go back to the platform, if we want to review this application data, we go up here to applications, we go to organizations, and then we can see here now, Vilfast Högsbo Aktiebolag has appeared here in this flow. And if we go in here now to this application, we basically get like a summary. So first here we get like a user journey. So you can see then all the steps that the applicant actually went through, what was automatically done, and where the agent, in this case, needs to review some information. And if the applicant were to drop off at any point here, you would actually notice that. And if they were to enter the flow again, they would pick up actually where they left off. And we go to organization details, we get all of the org details, we get the addresses, etc., organization contact details. That was what I put in here. AML registry, who was the applicant signing up to business, identification verification source, which was bank ID, governing body, and then beneficial owners here. And finally, signing combinations. And if we go up further, we go to financials, we get the financial data presented here. Balance sheet, key figures, etc. And if we go to ownership here, we then get presented, if it exists, an ownership structure, which is basically up the tree, an organization group structure. If that exists, it's basically, the full ownership group structure here that you can see. And then if any documents were collected, that will be presented here as well. And we obviously uploaded a document here. And in some markets where the business registers are not that good, but we can still access registry documents, you would be able then to see them here on the registry documents. You can then purchase and download additional documents if you want to verify some of the data perhaps that the applicant put in manually. And then finally here, we have also the customer due diligence questions. But in this scenario, we just ask the applicant to fill in contact details here. So that's a full 360 of how you build a flow, how you build out exactly the steps that you need, how you brand the flow, and also go live with the flow and take a first customer through it, and then review the data post onboarding. And before now we move to the next part, which is the entities that we're going to have a look at, I just want to check in if there are any questions so far. All clear? I take the silence as a yes. So let's continue. So entities then, what is that? So basically entities is, you can view this almost like your holistic identity profile of your customers. So it can either only exist one individual or a business as an entity, right? So if the company that we onboarded just now, if that doesn't exist, it will automatically create an entity. But an entity can have multiple applications against it. So you can basically view it as the master database, right? Where you see all the relevant latest data about your customer. So if you want to find now, because this customer already existed, which is Vilfast Högsbo Aktiebolag. So if you want to find that in entities, go to search here, Vilfast Högsbo. Let's see, there we go. Here we have it. And basically all the information here will then be updated over the organization information based on all the latest data. You have all the applications that's gone through against this business, right? So we can see them from different flows, if any documents has been uploaded, etc. But then we have a service here which is called relations. And basically what this enables is that you can get the whole relationship overview of the associations from Vilfast Holding AB to all the different applications that go through in the system, associated other entities or businesses, and you can then load entries here. So one use case that customers use this today for is, let's say you had businesses that's been flagged as a PEP or sanctioned, or an individual that appears frequently in a business that goes, in a customer of yours that goes bankrupt. Perhaps then you want to set an alert or flag that individual, and if they appear in a new flow, but for a new business, right, you will actually be able to get that alert because it has an association to your previous customers. So that's one example of how you can use this. And this is quite powerful because the more customers that you have, the bigger association tree here you can then build out. So that is entities. So really view entities, as I mentioned, as sort of the holistic identity profile of your customers. And then we want to move to risk scoring. So how do you then manage risk effectively with this? So if we go to risk scoring, the whole idea behind how we built this is that it should be flexible and dynamic. So based on all the data that comes in, we normalize all of the data and we present this as, you know, possible risk factors that you can then add. And you can create as many risk scoring models that you want, either for multiple markets, for different customer categories, etc. So if we want to create a new risk scoring model, we go up here into company X, we add that, and then we get presented this view. Do we want to create a risk scoring against individuals or organizations? Let's say we want to do one for organizations. We type in the market, which is Sweden, and then we hit configure variables. So then the system then understands, okay, based on the data that we have and gathered what types of risk variables are available, right, to build this risk scoring model. So Marcus, what do you think we should add in terms of variables here for the model?
Yeah, so you can go up a little bit in the beginning. So we can add, for example, the related entity sanction status.
Yeah,
it's quite interesting. You can scroll down a little bit, levels in owner structure, number of entities in owner structure, the one just below.
Yeah.
Then we can take one governing body members citizenship, And then if you scroll down, I can take, for example, the industry codes.
Perfect. So let's say we're happy with this. And something you can notice here as well is that we're flagging industry code and legal form with a Swedish tag here, or Sweden. Why is that, Marcus?
Yeah, so for each of the markets, as Fredrik was mentioning, we are trying to normalize all the data, which means that we take all the local data, for example, for the industry code for each of the countries, and also the same for the legal forms, which means that we can build out a better risk score since we know the specific data for the specific market.
Exactly. So let's say we're happy with this. We hit save, and then we get this view here. So then we see all the risk factors. We obviously need then to weight them from 0 to 100%, and this needs to then be calculated up to 100%. So you put out the weight distribution against this, but then you can also tab into these and set the inherent risk. So you can set a rating then from 1 to 4, and then you can actually put something that we call override here. And what does this mean here, Marcus?
Yeah, so the override score is basically like a dummy variable or a binary variable, which means that no matter the other risk factors that you have in your model, it means that in this case, for example, if the no data is a hit, it means that the lowest score will be a 4. So this means that you will be able to flag the risk factors that you believe is the ones that you think is the highest risk. So it means that you will never miss, in this case, when there's no data.
Exactly. So you continue then putting out the inherent risk, and then we perhaps get to a risk factor that has a lot of options here, right? So governing body member citizenship, right? And here you can then tab out all the countries. And if you go into Europe here, you can see something new here. Basically, you can then set, obviously, the inherent risk for each individual country. But what happens, Marcus, if we have a risk scoring policy that says that we want to think about Europe as a market in a very similar way? So
yeah, so in this case, so if you believe, so these risk factors enables you to apply the list of the high-risk countries that you think is the one is applicable to you according to your risk assessment. So, for example, here you have the flexibility to use the EU list, for example, or if you would like to use the HATEF list or a Basel index risk. And this means that here, for example, so if you believe that all the countries in Europe is a low risk, then you can just hit, for example, the 1. And then it means that you will have a 1 for all the European countries. And then you can do that per continent, basically.
yeah. So you can basically then be very flexible in terms of how you address both on a broader lens, the risk, right, but then also in a very granular way. And equally the same with sort of industry codes, right? There's a ton of different industry codes in certain countries. You can then tab in on a very granular level here and be very specific about the risk scoring that you want to set. And let's say we have then set the risk scoring. I'm not going to use the time here to complete the full risk scoring here now, but let's say we're happy with this. You can then actually preview the full, you can review the risk scoring model, and then you can then submit this. And basically then it takes place across all of your customers, the whole entities database with bits then, but for the Swedish market. And then you can add on, additional markets, right? And really be creative with this. You think about risk in both a more broader way, but also in a granular way across your customers. So that is risk scoring. And the next part that we're going to jump into is workspace. And workspace is really where you basically your daily task list, where you work with all the different alerts, all the different applications, flags, etc. But before we jump in there, I just want to check in quickly if there's any questions with regard to the risk scoring that we just presented. Crystal clear. Then let's jump into the workspaces. So we move over to workspaces, and basically here's really where you work as an agent, right? So here you see all the applications. You can see the origin, if it's an application, if it comes from monitoring, etc. You have a case ID. You can assign different agents, right, to the specific work that needs to be done, right? And you can see the status of them. So let's say we go into a sanction match here. Then we have an overview. So we see the individual, the entity in the system, and then we see the sanction match here that it has identified. And then you can see from specifically the list that it's been pulled. And if you're interested, you can also view the full report that is being gathered then from the underlying data source and at the specific list here. And then you can leave a comment, and you can put this as a false positive or a true positive. You can assign someone in the system. Right now it's just me, and you can then change the status, etc., and much more here. And then all the work that is done here by an agent, if you're asking for someone else to review, or if you're uploading something, approving something, leaving any comment, anything that is being performed as an activity is then gathered here in an activity log. And then we can go back and perhaps review a PEP match, similar here. And Marcus, perhaps you want to explain a bit more of how this works if you have multiple here.
Yeah, so this basically means that in this case, it means that we have received, I think, 3 or 4 different type of matches. So in this example in the middle here, you can see that we got a PEP class 1 and a PEP class 2 match. And then in the first one, I think it was only a PEP 1 class. And then if you scroll down, I believe we can see that it was, if you scroll down a little bit, yeah, it was a PEP 1 class. So this basically means that depending on the list and which kind of role this individual has, you will receive different matches, but then you will get all the matches within one case. So you will be able to handle all the different types of matches in one case instead of receiving multiple cases.
Super, thank you. And then we can actually review just one more, which could be an application. And here's an application case then. So why does this look a bit like applications, Marcus?
Yeah, so here in the application, we are then pulling the entity data into the case. So it means that you will see all the information that we have collected on the entity. So you are able to make your decision based on the latest data. So
basically, we summarize the whole data point here about the customer, right? So it's easy accessible when you make a sort of a decision based on the case that's been created here. So that is Workspaces, and again, view this really as sort of the daily go-to list for your teams, your agents who need to, based on the risk scoring, alerts that get flagged, etc., do the work with your customers. You do that in Workspaces. And then finally, we're going to move to monitoring, but just want to check in again quickly if there's any questions on Workspaces. I saw that Mark had to leave there, but we'll follow up with him post this webinar. But so far, so good. Any questions? Okay, then we'll continue to monitoring. So this is the first version of monitoring that we published to our customer that is available. This is being developed at a very high pace. So in a couple of weeks here, you're going to see a lot more on monitoring. So right now we can monitor PEP and sanction, but what is also coming here around the corner is the ability to select which lists you want to monitor against. I think we provide access to a bit more than 1,600 plus different lists that you can monitor against. And you're also going to be able to monitor adverse media, company information. So let's say a company goes bankrupt or UBOs change, then you're going to be able to monitor that. But then also what is very critical to businesses and compliance teams is being able to set the fuzziness level, right? The accuracy of the data. And you'll be able to do that. So basically you tick all the things that you want to monitor, configure that here, and then that applies across your entire customer base, right? Living in bits. So that's basically been like a quick rundown of the bits platforms, from everything from building from nothing a workflow for your onboarding needs or ongoing due diligence needs, branding that, taking it live, setting a risk scoring, working with entities if you have existing customers, and much more, and also the workspaces, right?